Good evening. Good evening, ladies and sinners. It's another episode of IE Vegas, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Cale Henderson. We are back for another edition, the Tuesday Night Slammer, the Tuesday night edition of the Sin City Sports Show. Man, a lot to talk about today. There's going to be definitely a deep dive into the Raiders. I'll say it like this, folks. I am pumped. Here's why. It's the NFL Draft Week. This is where all those college players that bust their butts for 4 or 5 years get a chance to basically live out their dreams, man. Even the undrafted NFL players, they get the love. You know what I mean? Because if you make it to the league, you're legit. You're a damn good player, and you shouldn't be doubted for that. I know that there's fans out there, and we're all highly critical, but we have to be happy. It's that type of year. We're going to touch base on the Las Vegas Aces because their season is right around the corner here. UNLV sports, the baseball team's on a run. Spring football just finished up. Analysis on that. We're going to touch on the Vegas Golden Knights. We got to talk a little bit about what happened with them this year, right? Are they about to miss the playoffs? It looks like it. So we'll talk about it a little further detail. But for the most part, we're going to talk about the NFL Draft. The event that is the NFL Draft in itself is in Vegas this year. Huge stage setup. If you guys want to take a look at that, go to visit lasvegas.com. You can check out the draft. It's actually front page news. It'll say learn more. Click on that. You can look at the draft experience. You can look at the stage. You can look at how everything's going to be rolling that way. Las Vegas is expecting a lot of inflow, a lot of new people in town, a lot of sports team fans, and it couldn't get any better for the city of Las Vegas. Like I said, this is one, I've said numerous times, this is one of the fastest growing sports markets in America, and it's only going to get better, especially with stuff like this. If you can continue to provide events, it's going to be a blast. So right when we get back, we are going to talk a little bit about, well, our sponsors, and then we're going to dive right into UNLV sports. And welcome back into the Sin City Sports Show presented by IE Sports Radio. I'm your host, Cale Henderson. You can get at me on Sin City Sports at SinCity_IESR. You can get at me on my personal Twitter at Cale_Henderson, where we are always willing to talk to sports, the Vegas fans, any sports fan for that matter. But this is the show built for Vegas sports and with that matter. Also, before we get into that, we have to talk about the lovely people that pay the bills around here. Because without the lovely people that pay the bills, I wouldn't be able to just sit here and have a good time talking to you folks about what I love, sports in general. Let's talk about the Southern California Warriors semi-pro football team. The world of semi-pro sports is unlike any other sports organizations. Players pay to play in hopes of so many different outcomes, whether it's playing to get film, to try out for professional teams, big-time colleges, or just play to stay in shape. No matter what, all semi-pro players have one thing in common, and that's playing for the love of the game. The SoCal Warriors have been on a quest to earn titles and give players second chances since 2017. Whether you're in Southern California or anywhere in the world, give semi-pro sports a chance. If you love your sport, you may get that second chance you have been waiting for as an athlete. Get at them on their social media, Twitter at SoCal Warriors, Instagram Southern California_Warriors, Facebook Southern California Warriors. And then we got to talk about the flagship channel, the sponsors, the folks, the name brand that I'm sitting on and privileged to sit on and talk about sports today, IE Sports Radio. For the last 7.5 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. All the while, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and with your help, we are ready to take the next step. When you go to our website, iesportsradio.com, you'll see our Patreon link with 5 different tiers. The first one starting at just $5 a month. This donation gets you a shout-out on all 32 of our shows. Higher tiers include IE Sports Radio merchandise, access to our podcasting university, and even a chance to be featured on a segment of our flagship show ran by the man, the myth, the legend, the host of all, the defining moment, Larry B himself. The defining moments of the show. Thank you all very much for continuing to make IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports. So yeah, the NFL draft is right around the corner here. Before we dive into that, we'll talk about a little bit about UNLV sports. UNLV in general, we're looking at a lot of progress in a short amount of time. UNLV baseball currently is 26-12, so they are having an excellent season. 15-3 on the season for that matter. 15-3 on the regular season, I should say, on that matter, and they're on a roll, man. It seems like every time I turn around, they're putting up double-digit scores or at least double-digit runs in general, and they have a large margin of victory. Last week, I saw them win 21-11. That's fantastic. How can you beat that, right? UNLV football displaying potential during spring showcase. The big thing with UNLV is they have a group of young linemen that are now no longer young linemen. They went from being underclassmen to upperclassmen. You're going to see more juniors and seniors starting at the offensive line. You'd still have an entrenched. They're still entrenched in a quarterback battle there. I'm not sure that'll be quite decided until closer to fall. But you have some definite athletes over there at the wide receiver position, a lot of speed. So I think we're going to see a different look from UNLV this year. It wouldn't surprise me if we see a team that is 500 or better, and that is actually really good compared to what it's been looking like for the last few years there in the Mountain West. The Mountain West that's been obviously dominated by teams like by the likes of Florida State, Fresno. It seems like that. So we have to, as a team, as a school. I think they're making the right steps and they're doing the best thing they can. Allegiant Stadium was set to host, or they hosted the spring game not too long ago. Was an event. You could definitely see some of the UNLV faithful showing up. It definitely doesn't look the same as when Raiders fans are there. I think they need to do a better job of kind of enclosing that stadium a little more to make it a little more vibrant for that red and black. But hey, listen, it looked like it was a good time. You can't be mad about that. And then still shout out to the UNLV freshmen who made the course of the Masters. We gave him a shout out a couple weeks ago. Definitely got to make sure we give them some love. And yeah, UNLV's on a roll, man. I know the athletic director not too long ago said that we got to do a better job of facilitating, recruiting, and I hope that continues to pay dividends because it looks like the UNLV baseball team is on a roll. They're killing it. I'd love to see the football team grow. If those two teams there, I know it's men's sports primarily, but I know if those two teams going, it's going to make recruiting to the Las Vegas area much easier. And again, it's one of those deals. We talked about it last week before I got into it a little bit with one of our fans. Listen, I think UNLV is a hell of a spot. If you are in one of those lower division football teams, not Power 5, I have no idea why you wouldn't want to look at going to UNLV. They got great facilities. It's beautiful. The atmosphere. I understand maybe you're a poor college student. You don't want to go after that Las Vegas lifestyle, but hey, UNLV's gorgeous. I'm telling you, folks, visit Las Vegas, University of Nevada, Las Vegas. Check out their facilities. Check out the atmosphere. It's awesome. And I think the more we promote it, the better off it's going to look, especially with the social media garnering so much as far as how recruiting's working these days. Social media is big. And with the new NIL running rampant, if you will, and the new transfer portals, UNLV needs to stay on the ball. Make sure that no matter what sport they're in, they're bringing in the best possible athlete they can, the best available possible athlete, so they can continue to grow their sports. Las Vegas Aces, season's right around the corner, folks. We've been talking about it for weeks. I know I've been saying it ad nauseum. I don't really care at this point. But yeah, we should get excited. May 1st will be their first preseason game against the Minnesota Lynx. They only have one preseason game. That'll start at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So it'll be an early preseason game. Their regular season kicks off May 6th. May 6th against the Phoenix Mercury in Phoenix at the Footprint Center. 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, about the same time I start my show every Tuesday evening. Tune in. Make sure you guys are keeping track of that Twitter handle. And then their first home game will be May 8th, Sunday, May 8th, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time against the Seattle Storm in the Michelob Ultra Arena, where they basically dominated last year. Just to give you guys a quick overview of how things went for the Lady Aces last year. They were first in their conference, first in their division. They did an excellent job when you look at the overall statistics. Minutes per game, Points per game, 89.3. Opponents, 80.2. When you have that kind of offensive output, and obviously there's some defense involved there, you're going to win more majority of the games. That'd be why they were top of their division for sure. Um, you had, I mean, you had players like Aja Wilson, who's averaging, 18.3 points per game. Some of the higher ones in the WNBA, especially when you average that out for a long period of a season, that makes a big difference. So the team is definitely on the rise. The team is definitely moving. They're on the rise. I did like their hire. I did like their hire of their new GM, which would be Natalie Williams, WNBA legend, U.S. Olympic gold medalist. They hired her as the GM on April 8th in general. And she's been looks like she's been making some moves because they acquired the number 8 and the number 13 picks this year from Minnesota in exchange for picks in 2023. So it looks like they're trying to do some revamping a little bit, maybe get a little bit younger, start drafting and developing talent. The Las Vegas Aces are doing some good things, and it just coincidence. While they're growing, they happen to be owned by the same team as the Las Vegas Raiders, Mark Davis. So kudos to him for what he's doing and his impact in Las Vegas in such a short amount of time. What's up, Adam, Mike, Gina, Taryn? Thank you guys for joining the show. Thank you for listening. Adam, yeah, looks like Golden Knights are trying to stay alive. I just don't see it, man. This is just my thing, and I guess we can kind of jump into that here in a little bit, or might as well while we're at it. I feel like it's just been the last 2 months. They've had opportunities. They've been in the same position in the Pacific. They have talent, but it was brought to my attention there's no like superstar power, and even though you had some of their main players getting healthy at the right time, it just seems like they couldn't string wins together when it mattered most. Personally, I think they truly. I don't mind the fact that they went with Robin Lehner. I think they were trying to go for a younger version at goalie, or a younger goalie, but I still think they missed the flower. I think they traded him away at the wrong time, and that kind of veteran leadership and goal, it makes a huge difference. Marc-Andre Fleury is a legend, and you could tell for the first few years here, the Vegas Golden Knights were just a much better team because Fleury was in goal. Defense has definitely broken down a little bit more this year. They've been haunted with injuries. What can you do? When you're injured, you're injured. But just in general, and I agree, Adam. There's been a lack of consistency in net. 100%. I just don't feel like it's the same. Yes, there's been some injuries to Lehner. I just still don't feel like Lehner's as good as Marc-Andre Fleury. I'd probably take an older Marc-Andre Fleury right now, the flower, than what I've seen from Lehner this season. But that's just because you know that there's still going to be some consistency there when it matters. Even if they didn't play him all year and they kind of saved him for this, I don't know. I'm with it. Chandler, welcome back, man. Glad to see you back. I didn't make that Wisconsin misstep like I did last week. Thanks for calling me out on that. Even though I should have been more detailed and said, hey, non-Power 5, you know what I'm saying? And yeah, I agree. Management screwing over the players helps even less. It's kind of crazy because what you saw from the Vegas Golden Knights, at least these first 4 years, is a blueprint of how to have a perennial playoff team. They're not afraid to go for it. They're not afraid to trade for players. But I believe you touched on this last week, Chandler. They just don't have like that superstar. There's a couple guys on here. I think it's too soon to, the jury's too soon to have the jury out at this time. But yeah, you still have Marshall, Stevenson, hella good players. But are they superstars? And I'm with you, man. I totally agree with you. Shea Theodore, he's someone I recognize from the Ducks. He was a good player. I don't know if he was an excellent player. Pacioretty, we haven't seen much of him this year. Again, injured with riddled with injuries. He only played 36 games, right? It's kind of a big deal. Stone, 34 games. Stone's a hell of a player. Didn't see him much. Jack Eichel, again, injuries. Games played, 31. That's kind of bad, man, when you look at it, because a team filled with guys like Eichel, Stone, Carlson. William Carlson only played 64 games this year, which means he sat out a few games. William Carlson, I think, is an excellent player. I don't think he gets enough credit, honestly, for what he does. But yeah, he only has 11 goals this year. You're getting majority of your goals this year from guys like Dadonov, Marshall, Stevenson. Right, Adam. Their salary cap's a nightmare too. I personally believe, I think Chandler touched on this last week. It wouldn't surprise me if we're going to see a team kind of unload on players next season or the off season. Um, you got to start getting some picks. Got to start building your farm again. And the only way you can lower your salary cap is like by bringing in younger guys and getting them reps. Maybe have a bit of a rebuild. Get rid of some of these higher end players that are taking up some of the cap. It's not that they're not playing well; they're just not available all the time, and that's a problem, especially for a Golden Knights team that really needed a lot of these veterans that are scoring a lot of points to be available when it mattered most. I mean, majority of your scoring when you look at this, when you look at the statistics, goals this year, Marshall left in or led in goals at 29, Stevenson 20. Those are both centers. You don't put those guys in the same line. It's not a bad thing. You just don't have them in the same line. Your right wing, Dadanoff 20 goals, Smith 16 goals. I mean, these are wings and centers. That's not bad. And again, just I feel like what is a huge loss for this team this year is they just didn't have Stone, Eichel, Carlson, and Pacioretty healthy most of the year. De, DeBoy, I think I always have a hard time pronouncing Peter DeBoer. Is that what it is? I always have a hard time announcing his last name. But yeah, sometimes you might need a change up there, man. Especially when it's been what feels like the same thing for the last few years. Yes, you're making the playoffs. Yes, you made a run to the Stanley Cup final one year. But other than that, it feels like they've had first or second round exits nonstop. I put it in line with my favorite team, and I hate to say this, the Ducks in their prime. Bruce Boudreau was a hell of a coach. It felt like they were winning the regular season title, the President's Cup every single year. They had prime talent with Corey Perry and Ryan Getzloff, Ryan Kessler, and they did a great job of continuing to amass wins and get to the playoffs. But it felt like those games that mattered, like those conference final games, Game 7, when you have to pull it out, they just didn't get it done. And it was the same thing over and over. And in a lot of cases, when teams are doing that, yes, they're still very good teams and they're a threat. There's something with the voice. There's something going on with the coaching staff that these same mistakes continue to repeat themselves. And I feel like that's what's been happening with Las Vegas. I feel like the goaltending's been whack. I'm going to say it. I'm just going to call it out. I don't think Liner's been a guy that they can really depend on this year, unfortunately. And the coaching, it seems like it's up and down. It's been good enough to get them, to the playoffs for a few years, but unfortunately, it is what it is, man. Like I feel like they do have a lot of talent on this team. I do. There isn't some like elite talent on this team, but there's a lot of talent. When you look at this, you see a lot of talent across the board, and it's just unfortunate when guys like Stone, Mark Stone, are only available for 34 games, only get 8 goals. That's tough, especially when they were so prominent for you the year before. William Karlsson's the same way. Pacioretty, I still think he's got time left in him, but yeah, that salary cap's going to kill him. And until they do something about that, maybe bring in some new players, feed them. I don't know. It's going to be tough. And then, I mean, you look at Liner's stats aren't that bad. 2.83 goals per game, 90% save percentage. It's not horrible, but it's the availability. Only 44 games this year. I swear, man, if we looked at the old stats from the Flower, man, Marc-Andre Fleury, he was available for more games than that. I feel like he was. May sound crazy, just feel like he was. We're gonna go to a quick break. When we do, we'll touch on the Vegas Golden Knights a little bit more, but the rest of this show, for the most part, guys, is gonna be focused on the draft, what's coming in. We got some Raiders rumors going on right now. I want to debunk those, and then we're gonna talk a little bit about what the potential of the Raiders can do, especially with the way the AFC West. I think we'll just talk about the AFC West in general because it all matters. I agree, Adam. He's been very average. David Quinn, great fit. Could totally see that happen, Chandler. All right, guys, when we get back, we'll talk a little more about the Golden Knights, a little update about what's going on, where they're at in the standings, if they have a chance, and then we'll touch base on the NFL draft, the draft experience, Las Vegas Raiders.
everybody. This is Taryn Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunderous Spikes? Then I have the show for you. Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What is going on, everybody? My name is Harrison Glazer, and we're coming at you from the Show That Never Sleeps podcast. I cover the Jets, the Islanders, the Nets, and the Yankees.
This is Pierre Moss, and I cover the Mets, Knicks, Rangers, and the Giants.
Our show is live every Wednesday through Spreaker and a bunch of other ways to get our content. Again, we're the Show That Never Sleeps podcast. We talk about all those New York sports. It's a lot of fun. We get into all of it. Please tune in. Again, that's Wednesdays at 6 p.m.
And we look forward to having you guys right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What is going on, everybody? This is Ben Metello, the host of the Yinza Report, right here on IE Sports Radio. I'm bringing you the latest in the Steel City, the City of Champions, from the Steelers, the Penguins, the Pirates, as well as the college game with both Penn State and Pitt. You could join me every Tuesday afternoon at 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, right here on IE Sports Radio, where I'll be talking about everything from the Steel City, the City of Champions, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hi everybody, it's Calvin here from USRN, here to give you an important message. Since 2017, we have done our absolute best to provide you with nothing but the highest quality of sports calls in the greatest of quantity possible. Thanks to you, our station has grown more than we ever thought. That's why, with your help, we would like to grow even further. Just think, twice the amount of your favorite calls, 24 hours of coverage, talk shows, play-by-play, game-by-game analysis, and so much more. That's right, USRN2 is officially in development, but we can't do it alone. We have set up a GoFundMe page that you can access from our homepage on the left of your screen. We also are planning special giveaways and prizes to our highest donors. Our goal here at USRN is to bring you the best calls possible at no cost to you. In order to continue to do that, we need your help now. Please check out our GoFundMe page, and if you would like to know how you can help, you can email usrnradio@gmail.com. Without your support, we couldn't do what we do. Hey USRN fans, do you have a product or company you're trying to promote? Look no further. USRN is teaming up with small local businesses trying to establish themselves via online promotion. Let us know if you're interested. Email us at usrnradio@gmail.com to learn more.
What's up, sports fans? Are you looking for the latest on Northern California sports? Then take a trip out west with me, your host, Gina G, on Reppin' the NorCal Sports, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'll be bringing it to you all the way live every Monday at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. And it's always a packed show. I'll bring you everything Dynastic 49ers, the bite of the San Jose Sharks, torture of the San Francisco Giants, the Golden State Warriors that we still believe. Then take you across the bay to the rise and grind of the Oakland A's. I've got you covered on college ball from the Cal Bears to the Stanford Cardinal, so that no matter what, reppin' in NorCal Sports is always reppin' the Bay. So if you bleed red and gold, or you're looking to keep an eye out west in them thar hills, don't miss me, Gina G, on reppin' in NorCal Sports. Catch me every Monday at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, and I'll have your fandom repped harder than a trio of defenders guarding Stephen Curry before his buzzer beater is Gucci.
What up, IE sports fans? Welcome back to IE Vegas, the Sin City Sports Show presented by IE Sports Radio. Thanks, Taryn. I love these beats too, man. I got to do a shout out to Gina G, by the way, man. There's something about her song. It's got me moving. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's her voice. And this is no disrespect. This is no insult. Gina, if you're listening, I want you to know, I think you could literally have a voice for that sleep app. You know what I'm talking about? The one where people, tell you bedtime stories and people pass out. That's not even an insult. I think you got one of them smooth voices, man. I think you should be looking into that, young lady. Get after it, okay? Start putting your voice out there a little more. That would be awesome. Thanks, Taryn. Guys, welcome back to the... Yeah, Gina, anytime. Listen, welcome back to the Sin City Sports Show presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Yeah, this is what we're looking at, folks. I'm your host, Cale Henderson. We're going to be talking a little bit about the draft, Golden Knights. We'll finish up with them here in a little bit. I got to touch base on you guys because IE Sports Radio has a little bit of a competition going on, a little bit of a mock draft competition going on. The 2022 NFL Draft is right around the corner. IE Sports Radio is excited to announce the third annual mock draft challenge. The rules are simple. Predict all 32 first-round picks. No trades, no modifications, no tricks. The participant who has the best mock draft will receive a shout-out on all of our shows and their chance of an IE Sports Radio hat or shirt. For more information or to submit your mock, please reach out to Mike Pat at letswine.iesr. Good luck. If you folks happen to do that, get a lotto ticket, send me some money, Venmo, PayPal, let me know. I'll send you that info. I'm always willing to take care of myself, you know what I'm saying? Shout out on the show. Financial support. We all love that around here. A little marketing money for the Sin City Sports Show. All right, folks. We'll dive into the Vegas Golden Knights one last time. Listen, they're fourth in the division. I just don't see it going well. I really don't. I feel like they lost games they shouldn't have lost, and that's kind of what's led them to where they are now. And that's fourth in division. Now they're about 6 points back. They were 3 last week. It just tells me they're blowing games that they shouldn't be blowing, and they're not beating teams they should beat. Like the Canucks last week. You can't expect to make the playoffs if you're not going to beat the Canucks. You can't expect to make the playoffs if you're not going to beat teams like the Coyotes, who, in my opinion, they're not even. I don't know. In my opinion, the Coyotes just aren't even really an NHL team. I don't know what they are. Maybe a farm system, a AAA minor league team at sometimes. That's my shots at them. I don't really care. But you can't, if you don't beat teams like that who are not very good, the expansion Kraken team, you could do a good job against them. Honestly, I hate to say this, but my Ducks, if you can't beat them consistently, I know the Ducks are a young team. They're spunky, they're physical, but the reality is if you can't beat those teams that you're expected to beat, you're not going to be in the playoffs. So to me, being 6 points back, there's only a couple games left. I just don't see it happening. Adam says, Zach and I pick on the Yotes almost every week. They're terrible. I mean, the last time they were relevant, in my opinion, was when Wayne Gretzky was coaching them. And I know you know what I'm talking about. That was years ago, man. Wayne Gretzky was the last time those guys were relevant. I don't even care what anybody says about that. There's 2 games left right now. The Golden Knights are tied up with Dallas. At Dallas, they need to beat Chicago. They need to beat the Blues. You basically need all 3 of these wins to have a shot, and then just hope none of the other teams score a point in the standings. And I just don't see that happening. I think the Golden Knights are outside looking in, and it is what it is. It's the first year since their inception that that's the case, which means you have a consistent culture of winning. But as Adam, as Chandler, as both alluded to tonight, there's just some issues with the roster, issues with coaching. It seems as though they need maybe a new voice in the locker room. They also might need to look at their salary cap situation. How do we unload that salary cap? How do we bring young guys up? How's their farm system looking? All those questions have to be answered this offseason, and I'm telling you, man, I would not want to be the Vegas Golden Knights front office if I were them. I just want to make sure, they haven't traded away too much to continue staying this relevant. Because, again, they have a loaded roster, in my opinion. I think they have a bunch of guys that could really contribute and score. I think they have more guys than most NHL teams. It's just a matter of how did you acquire them. They had to spend a lot of money to do it. They had to give up some draft picks to do it. They had to give up prospects to do it. Major League Baseball and NHL are one of those leagues that they can trade prospects like that because there's a minor league system, there's a farm system in general. So minor league for hockey, more along the lines, and a farm system, or minor league for Major League Baseball. They have the ability to trade these top prospects to, get those better players in hopes that those prospects, amount to something in the future for those other teams that they're trading to. You just don't see that in a lot of other sports. Hockey and baseball have that privilege. I think that the Golden Knights traded away a few prospects in the last few years that could have helped them. So part of the reason why they're here is you got to beat the teams you need to beat. Period. All right? If you do that, we're looking at a Golden Knights team that's probably 6 to 10 wins better. I'm serious. Look at their schedule. I mean, we can look at it right now. Let's look at it. Canucks, that was recently. Canucks again, within the last 2 weeks. You beat the Kraken. They had a couple, and they were streaky too. They went on a few 5-game win streaks throughout the year. It's kind of crazy. But then you have these streaks here: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 losses. Jets, Jackets, Penguins, Sabres, Flyers. I mean, those are all decent teams. But there's a few of them in there you have to win. Just got something in from Chandler Knight. Okay, pie in the sky, off-season trade. Full disclosure, I'm a Rangers fan. Eichel to the Rangers. Vegas absorbs $12 million of the remaining hockey on contract. Vegas gets Strome, Lundqvist. In 2 seconds. You'd want that as a Rangers fan. You haven't seen the full potential of Eichel yet. We saw couple of really good years in Buffalo, but you'd want to trade all that for one player. I mean, I guess you're talking about the $12 million remaining there. Man, that's a really good team trade for both teams. That'd be interesting, man. I like that. That's a really good trade for both teams, with the exception of maybe Vegas loses because they have to hold on to that money. But yeah, I think that's a really good trade. Good stuff, Chandler. So yeah, overall, just because we got to get into the draft, and I got other things to talk about in this show because I'm really excited about the draft. This is draft week, baby. One of my favorite times of the year. I don't think the Golden Knights are making the playoffs. I think it's a foregone conclusion. I feel like when they lost to the Canucks last week or a couple weeks ago, about a week and a half ago, April 12th, for some reason in my mind, I just didn't think they could do it. It is what it is. Taryn says, sorry to jump away from the NHL, but Melvin Gordon signed a 1-year deal with Denver. He will stay with the Wisconsin teammate, Russell Wilson. That's cool. They still don't really have an offensive line, so I'm not too worried about it. Hopefully they have moving step stools for Russell. Is what it is. All right, guys, the NFL draft this Thursday, first round, man. You got to be excited. If you guys want to take a look at what's going on, please go to visitlasvegas.com. Check out the event. It's like front page. It's going to be awesome. Okay, I'm really excited. I think it's huge for Vegas. Again, in my opinion, the fastest growing sports city in America. It's getting huge, okay? It's just increasing the value of sports leagues, and I think it's great. Look at the event, the draft experience. You have the stage in general where the players will be basically the first round, the draft red carpet. You're going to have basically a float taking players from where they're picked or the back area to the stage. It's going to be super dope. Only Vegas would do that. The draft theater is going to look great, especially with the later draft picks and kind of seeing where everything's at. I love seeing that huge melting pot of NFL fans, that type, especially all 3 days. Why not? Speaking of the NFL draft, guys, I kind of put together a list of guys that I am really interested to see where they go, and I think they're going to be impact dudes no matter where they go. There's like 500, 600 athletes, right, available to get drafted every year. And this list is semi-disingenuous because there's a lot of really good players. So I'm going to leave off the obvious ones, right? I'm not going to talk about, Jordan Davises of the world. The 6'6", 360-pound guys that can run 4.7. Like, he's disgusting. We know he's going to do some work, especially if he ends up on the right football team. And it looks like he's putting in a lot of work in the offseason. I'm not going to talk about guys like that. I know that you have the top players like Aiden Hutchinson. You have, the Charles Crosses, the Akeem Ikwanu. Dude, by the way, I'm really excited about him from NC State. He's a mauler. He's going to be a lot of fun to watch. It should be interesting to see where Evan Neal goes because I do see him as one of the guy just at 350 pounds. That's one of the leanest 350-pound men I've ever seen in my life. Helps he's 6'7". But listen, Alabama knows how to get him out. Kayvon Thibodeau looks like he could slip in the draft and fall. One of my favorite prospects in the entire draft in general is Kyle Hamilton, safety out of Notre Dame. He's just a freaky guy, man. He could play strong safety. He could play linebacker. You just never know with them. So many players to talk about. Here are my list of first-round guys I'm very interested to see. They're pretty much my favorite first-round guys, period. Tyler Lindenbaum, out of Iowa, center. Basically, he's being heralded, even according to PFF and major draft shows, he's being heralded as one of the best center prospects they've seen in years, period. Like Travis Frederick type center prospect, and we all know what a hell of a season or what a hell of a career he had with the Dallas Cowboys before having to undergo the medical issues and having to leave football. They're putting Tyler Linderbaum in that same category. Wherever he ends up, they're going to get a stud at center. I'm telling you guys, this guy is a freak of nature. He's not huge, but he's not small either. He's got one of the highest grades at center ever in college football era, in the PFF or college football era. Tyler Linderbaum is somebody I'm really watching for because if a team is smart, it doesn't matter if you have a decent center, if you can go out and get Tyler, do it. He's a beast. My probably second favorite guy in this whole draft is Devontae Wyatt. I know the Georgia tackles are getting attention. We all know that Nakobe Dean and Jordan Davis are the studs of that Georgia defense. I get it. There's just so much to like about those guys. But something tells me Devontae Wyatt is just being undervalued, and it's because he has to stand next to 6'6", 360-pound man like Jordan Davis. Devontae Wyatt is not far off in size. He's about 6'3", 6'4". He's a little over 310 pounds, just right around 310 pounds. He ran actually a faster 40 than Jordan Davis. He's more explosive off the ball. Whoever gets this guy, they're going to get an excellent pass rusher and run defender. He's just dominant in general. And I think that he's being overlooked because of how good Jordan Davis, how good Nakobe Dean were. Watch out for Devontae Wyatt. What I'm worried about is he ends up on a team like the Chargers, who are in position to draft a guy like him. I'm worried he ends up on a team like the Chiefs. Again, the AFC West is already loaded. If you give Devontae Wyatt a guy with a high-end motor to complement dudes like Bosa, or complement guys like, Chris Jones in Kansas City, defensive tackle, that's a scary thought. Devontae Wyatt, to me, could end up being one of those guys just completely dominant. Like, I look at him, and I'm not saying he's Aaron Donald. I just put him in that Aaron Donald-esque type facet because of his intangibles, his explosiveness, his strength. I just love watching him play football. I'm telling you guys, look at the highlights, look at the film. It doesn't lie. I would almost say he's better. Seriously, I would rate him better than Jordan Davis. I think Jordan Davis is going to be more impactful in the short term because of his size. He's going to be hard to move. I think he's going to have a better pass rush setup than what folks think because he's leaned out since Georgia days. Jordan Davis has. But Devontae, to me, I think between the two of them, I would probably pick Devontae. If something tells me he has a higher motor, he's more explosive in general on tape, I think he's a better pass rusher, take him. 100% take him. He could be a nose tackle for years to come. He could be a 3 technique. It could be a 5 technique. Like, he's all over the board. He's a little big for a 5 technique, but you could still work him in there. You know, these guys leaned out for the combine, and they look great. Next guy on my list of people I want folks to watch out for. Again, they're not the big names. They're guys I think are going to have a hell of a career. Sky Moore, to me, wide receiver out of Western Michigan, he looks like Tyreek Hill on tape. Seriously, he may not be quite as fast, maybe a step or two slower than Tyreek. That's still extremely fast, and he doesn't have the crappy rap sheet. Okay, we all know about Tyreek Hill and how bad of a human being he is. Sky Moore, he's not that guy, but he looks to be as dynamic as that guy. I am definitely worried he ends up on a team like Kansas City. This is a perfect guy for Kansas City. Perfect guy. He's a perfect guy for any team, in my opinion, that needs a gadget guy that you can move in the slot, outside. I mean, the guy ran 4.4 speed, sub 4.4 speed. This guy is a freak of nature. You can play him at running back. He's got thick legs, tree trunks for legs. I mean, he looks like a newer version of Tyreek Hill to me. More refined route runner, too. So it should be interesting to see what happens with Sky Moore. I don't know. To me, I peg him as a Raven. You know, I look at him and I see a Raven. I see a Kansas City Chief, 100%. I could see him being a Titan. You know, he's going to be one of those guys that's probably 16 or later. Could even slip to the 6th round. Shouldn't, but could slip to the 6th round. Adam asks, what do you think about Pickens? Pickens, to me, is a big body receiver. I think he's got that vertical. He's got that vertical potential. I don't think he's as fast as some of the other guys, but I do think he's a stud in his own way. It sucks that he had the ACL tear, but he did come back and he was impactful. I could see why the Bears would want to do that, especially after you guys lost Allen Robinson. Man, let me see here. Again, because the Bears don't have a first-round pick. Am I right, Adam? I would say Pickens is good if you want a big guy. To me, like, an all-around receiver is what I think the Bears need to target. And if I were them, I'd be looking more along the lines of, you know what's scary? According to the rankings, Treylon Burks is somebody they think might slip to the 2nd round. If that's the case, he'd be my number 1 guy over Pickens. Treylon Burks they're almost the same receiver. Treylon might be a tad slower, maybe, but he's a freak of nature. Another one I think they should really look at is Dotson out of Penn State. Jahan Dotson's he's only 5'11". I think he measured in around like 190 pounds, maybe 185 pounds. Guy's a freak of nature with his body. To me, I look at Jahan Dotson and I see Steve Smith. So if I were the Bears and he's available, I'm taking him. Like if Treylon Burks isn't available, but Jahan Dotson is, Adam, if I were the Bears, I'd take Jahan Dotson because he's just a dynamic football player. Period. Everywhere. He's not a one-trick guy that you put on the outside. You can put him anywhere. Okay, that's my opinion for the Bears. I would go Jahan Dotson if a Treylon Burks is not available. And people shouldn't sleep on Jalen Tolbert out of South Alabama too. I mean, he didn't play those big games against big opponents, but the guy was one of the best deep threats in all of college football. Okay. One of the other guys I want to talk about is Tyler Smith out of Tulsa. Tyler Smith out of Tulsa was like the highest graded offensive tackle in the run game out of anybody in college football, period. He's a mover. He's a big dude. He's probably somebody who's going to maybe transition to guard if a team really wants a slightly slower tackle. They could keep him there. But to me, Tyler Smith is a freak of nature. I think he's a better blocker than Nkwonu. Nkwonu just brings an attitude. He's a mauler. I think Tyler Smith's a better blocker overall. And I know it's hard to say because he played for Tulsa. He didn't play against big-time teams. But Tyler's huge. At 6'5", almost 6'6", 338 pounds. He probably transitions to a guard, but he's somebody I could totally see being a starter day one and an impact guy immediately. I do give a lot of love to the offensive line because, in my opinion, in football, you don't go anywhere without the offensive line. Cornerback Jalen Petrie is not talked about enough. I think he's such a versatile corner. I know he played a lot of slot for the Baylor Bears, but without him, I just don't see them being that 12-win team they were. Jalen Petrie's nuts, man. He's all over the place. He made Kalen Barnes, the speed demon in the draft, look way better than what he is. Jalen Petrie, to me, could play anywhere. And I think he's a very underrated player. That's part of the reason why I'm saying this. These are my top 5 round 1 guys that I really like. And maybe they're more tailored toward, their later first-round guys that I think could be steals because they're better than their tape is better than what people think they are. But yeah, these are the 5 guys I really like in the first round that people should go after. Under the radar guys that I really see being heavy contributors, maybe that you could probably get in the 3rd round, maybe late 2nd round, but should be considered some of the better players in all of college football, like a Josh Pascal out of Kentucky's defensive end, one of the better run stoppers in all of college football. Kingsley Enagbar out of South Carolina, one of the best pass rushing grades the last 2 years out of any edge rusher, period. Running back Breece Hall. I actually have a former buddy of mine I played high school football with. He had stated that Breece Hall, running back out of Iowa State University, is like literally one of the best football players he's ever seen on a field. Literally. Best football players. We're not just talking about a running back because he's super talented. We're talking about best football players ever. He played in a system in Iowa State that was spread. They kind of tailored it to more of his game, which is spread and power or power spread. I think Breece Hall, wherever he ends up, is going to be an impact guy immediately. Like, immediately. And he could be a late round 2, early round 3 type guy. Breece Hall's nuts. Another corner that I'd want to give some love to is Kyler Gordon out of Washington. One of the most athletically gifted corners. He didn't test very well as far as the speed or the 40, but I can tell you guys, he's like a black belt, multiple martial arts. The dude was a gymnastics freak of nature in high school. Like, he's just an athletically gifted human being, and he played really well for Washington, like very well at corner for Washington. McDuffie is getting a lot of credit, but I feel like if you didn't have a guy like Kyler Gordon on the other side, you just don't see it. Wide receiver John Mechie out of Alabama was legitimately their most consistent guy in the receiver position. We're talking about a draft that's going to have Jameson Williams in it, one of the best deep threats in all of college football. John Mechie got hurt last couple games. He could slip to the 3rd, and he's a dynamic guy. I look at him and see a better Jarvis Landry, a faster Jarvis Landry. And there's nothing wrong with that. Jarvis Landry's a beast. He's held his own for years in the league. But I just look at John Mechie and I see a better version of Jarvis. And then Darian Kennard out of Kentucky. Again, another one of those guys that's just a freak of nature at the tackle position, around 6'6", 330 pounds. He's got great mobility, and he grades really high in the run game. He's just a mauler, man. These guys just push people around the SEC. I want to see Darian Kinnard on a good team. He's somebody I hope the Raiders look to in 86. If he's available at 86, I don't know if the Raiders can pass him up. Period. That's what I'm looking at for the draft. It's so exciting, man. There's a lot of really good players out there. Those are probably 10 guys that I'm really looking forward to seeing get drafted this year. Keep an eye on them. If you guys have any questions on specific athletes, please get at me, DM me, tweet me at SinCity_IESR. You can get at me on my personal at Kale_Henderson. I'd be happy to talk about anything related to the draft. But these are some guys that I feel like are going to be under the radar. These 6 guys I just listed recently. Wherever they end up, they're going to make a difference right away. They may not be stud wide receivers or quarterbacks, but I think that they're going to show up with an attitude, feel underappreciated. Some of them dealt with injuries late in the season, and they're going to come for some blood, man. Those are the type of guys I want. I want to see John Mechie go off, no matter where he goes, once he's fully healthy. I'd love to see him say, I was the top wide receiver at Bama that year. Jameson's a freak of nature and really fast and a great deep threat. But Mechie was a better all-around receiver in my opinion. I could be wrong. I think Chris Olave is the best all-around receiver in this draft out of Ohio State. I think he can do everything. He's got speed. He's got size. He can play in the slot. He can play outside. He can beat your man. He's one of the best route runners. I think Chris Olave is the best, but I've been told Jameson Williams is the best. So we'll see what happens. I'm excited. We all know teams sometimes draft for need, so the board's skewed. I won't be doing a mock draft this year in the first round because my beloved Raiders are not in it, and I refuse to participate if my babies aren't in there. But I'll say it like this. I think there's a lot of guys that are going to get drafted that are underappreciated, and it's going to be fun seeing them thrive in the NFL, and that's what this is all about. Real quick, I'll go over my mock draft that I did earlier today. At 86, I had the Raiders taking Sean Ryan out of UCLA. Tackle. There's a possibility he gets moved to guard. Big guy, great grading, excellent athlete. I took him at round 3, pick 86. Round 4, 126, Terrell Bernard, mobile linebacker, sideline to sideline linebacker, what the NFL's kind of moving to. Another under the radar honorable mention guy that I had was in round 5 at 164. Micah McFadden had a cast on his hand most of the season for Indiana, the Hoosiers. And he was literally one of the lone studs on that roster. Micah McFadden's a beast. He's, again, another sideline-to-sideline linebacker who doesn't miss tackles, and he barely missed any with a cast on his broken hand. I love that dude. I love that kind of energy. I want to keep that. That's what I'm looking for out of a linebacker. Raiders need linebacker depth. They also need line depth in general. So in round 5 at 166, I took one of the better guards. Again, another honorable mention guy. Lecitus Smith out of Virginia Tech, former tight end, moved to guard, put on some weight. He's very athletic. He can move around. He can mirror defensive linemen really well. And then Noah Ellis, the big man. I've had him in a few of my mock drafts. You guys know this. At about 6'2", 364 pounds. He's your prototypical nose tackle, not super explosive. But he's strong, man. You can't move him. He's really hard to move. I mean, at 364, you should. My mock draft had an A-. It was kind of realistic for what I'm looking for. I think the Raiders focus on the fronts because it's a weakness in our division. I believe that the fronts in the AFC West are bad, period. Like, the defensive lines are pretty decent, but the offensive lines are not very good. So I do believe the Raiders, if they want to be a better football team, they can attack the offensive lines that are still growing, especially ones like Denver. You know, it's cool that Denver picked up Melvin Gordon for one more year. It's cool that they have Russell Wilson, but if Russell ain't got time, you can't do anything about it. They allowed 40 sacks last year with a, taller quarterback. You say what you want, man. I hope Russell's healthy. I hope the AFC West is thriving, but it is what it is. And real quick on the Raiders, Darren Waller will not be traded. That's my bold saying right now. It's not really bold. It is what it is. Darren Waller will not be traded. The Packers have been said to be interested in Darren Waller. I don't see it happening. There's no way they get a 1 and a 2 for him. You just don't get that from a 30-year-old tight end. That's like decent quarterback compensation. You're just not going to see it happen. The only way I see it happening is that the Raiders get at least a first and an impact player. A corner that they're like, I don't know. I just don't see it happening. Darren Waller is a dynamic weapon. He's arguably one of the top 3 tight ends, if not one of the top athletes, elite athletes in all of the NFL. Adding keeping him and adding Davante Adams makes your team scary good. Period. Terrence says, I have the Chargers going defense. Or yeah, I have the Chargers going defense too. I think the Chargers go after Jordan Davis if he's still there. I don't know if he will be, but he'd be perfect fit for that defense. You guys had basically 500, or it was like 5+ yards per carry on your defensive line last year on your defense. Yes, there's just no way. You guys need to go defense. And yes, do not trade Waller. Too dynamic. Pairing him with Davante Adams makes your offense nearly unstoppable. You still have Josh Jacobs, Kenyon Drake in the backfield, Hunter Renfrow. You have arguably two of the best route runners in all of the NFL. You can't give him up. You can't give them up. No way. Let them mold. Give them a season. You have a lot of potential on this Raiders football team. They're turning heads. This front office has had an excellent first year. You have money coming back to you on June 2nd when you're cutting a couple guys post June 1st designation, extra $20 million. You can re-sign these guys. You can still sign some key veteran guys from the offseason that weren't picked up on teams. It's all plausible. Draft well, which is something Raiders fans haven't seen in years. Draft well, and I feel like this front office has had one of the best first seasons as a front office you can see. This is a win-now team. It's competitive. Do not give up Darren Waller when you just added Davante Adams. Your offense is that dynamic. All right? Guys, this is it for the show. This is your Tuesday edition of IE Sports Radio. The Sin City Sports Show presented by IE Sports Radio. All right? That's what we do on Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. The IE Vegas Sin City Sports Show presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Get at me. Tweet me. Tune in. Have fun in the draft. You guys have any questions, reach out anytime, anywhere. I'll answer back. I'm your host, Cale Henderson. And I will be happy to see you guys next Tuesday. If not, I will hear from you throughout the week. As always, ladies and sinners, live well, live healthy, love, peace, and hair grease.